Hi everybody, I hope you like the new intro. Today's video is going to be a little bit different, a little bit of a show and tell video. I'm sorry that I haven't made any videos during the past few weeks, but we're almost in the middle of spring now, and let's get moving. So this is a first day cover from Royal Mail from March 2012, and it's a celebration of British comics. British comics, very, very different from American comics, the superhero type comics. They're more like the Sunday supplement type funnies in America, and they feature a lot of cartoon strips. So the first stamp is the Dandy, going on to the Beano and Dennis the Menace, Eagle and Dander, Topper, Tiger, Bunty, that was a girls' magazine, I think. Buster, Valiant, Twinkle, another girls' comic, and 2000 AD. That was more kind of science fiction, if I remember rightly. But the comic I used to get was called Buster, and going back many, many, many years, one Sunday afternoon, my sister was looking through the comic and it came to the page of adverts. And she spotted an advert for a company called Joker's Corner. If you sent off a postage stamp, they'd send you back a catalogue of all the gimmicky jokes and X-ray spec type things, and itching powder. I think if you sent for the catalogue, that they sent you a free itching powder sachet. And next to that advert, there was another advert that really caught her eye. And it said free, complete collector's outfit, contains 14 items, and it said something like the usual price is £1, and you get the Howden stamp album, a magnifying glass, a swap holder packet, perforation gauge, watermark detector, stamp tweezers, stamp identifier, facsimile stamp, world flags, and all you had to do was send off a 14p stamp, and the kit would be on its way to you. And you could keep the collector's outfit, but what they would do is send you an approval book to look at. And if you liked the stamps, fair enough, you bought them. And if you bought them all, you got to pay half price. And if you didn't want them, you sent the approval book back. So we got writing out the letters with my name and address on, and inevitably we went to my mum for a stamp. In those days, you could only buy stamps from the post office, and in the village where I lived, Wednesday was a half-day closing, Saturday was half-day closing, and the post office didn't open at all on a Sunday. So what usually happened was that in a drawer somewhere, my mum would have booklets of stamps outside the post office. They used to have a machine. You put 50p in, and you get some stamps. But inevitably, what used to happen was that the second class and the first class stamps, they'd all be used up, and you'd just be left with the halfpenny and penny stamps. My mother was collecting the halfpenny and penny stamps long before I was, anyway. So I can't remember. I don't think that there was any stamps left in the booklet when we got to send them off. But the letters got left on the sideboard, and I forgot all about them until about 4 weeks later, 28 days later, the package arrived, and it came in a very beaten brown envelope, and I took the things out. There was a plastic set of tweezers, there was a few packets of stamps, the strangest stamp wallet I'd ever seen. I put some stamps in to demonstrate how it worked, and you had a perforation gauge, and a watermark detector. This one really intrigued me. For many years, I thought you just put the stamp against a black mark. I never actually read that you needed benzene or lighter fuels or Ronsanol. I was perplexed why I could never find the watermarks. And the other thing that came with the collector's pack was the approval book. Now, I've got a few of these off eBay. They sell very, very cheaply. They're, I think, more of something to reminisce over than to form part of your collection. Always on the first page. If you bought a certain amount's worth of stamps, you've got to keep the stamp or stamps on the first page. And then you'd have stamps. Many of them were cancelled to order. They hadn't been postally used. Very, very neat cancellations. And quite often from countries within the Warsaw Pact. So that was Hungary. Here we have Poland, Hungary again, the Soviet Union, and then you have these stamps from Yemen. This says that it's the Yemen Arab Republic. I seem to think that was the old North Yemen. But bizarrely, there's many Yemens when it comes to these approval books. There's some stamps from Poland. Then another favourite of these postal books was stamps from the Trucial States, the United Arab Emirates. Again, they all came cancelled to order. They'd never ever been put on an envelope, although this one doesn't seem to be gummed. Many of them still had gum on the back, and very, very strange scenes. These are all about the life of Jesus, I think. So this is another Trucial State, again cancelled to order. Some more depicting various popes. You know, this is a Muslim country. I very much doubt that the people in Ajman would welcome these kind of stamps. They just weren't used there. I've read somewhere that a German businessman went to the government in the Trucial States and told them, come on, make some money. I'll print loads of stamps on your behalf, and we'll put your name on them, and we'll sell them to collectors, gullible collectors all over the world. And that's exactly what they did. But as a child, I thought they were wonderful, and I bought many of these stamps. But I wouldn't today. Having said that, I bought these, haven't I? And finally, some stamps from New Zealand. They actually look that they have been used. You had a number on the back, and I think that related to your account, but I'm not sure. Here's another booklet. Some more Rhodesian stamps, Mongolian stamps this time. Another Aden state, Yemeni state, this time Kathiri state. South Arabia. I think that, yes, they're overprinted, I think, of Aden, but not the British Protectorate of Aden. I'm not quite sure. Some Finland stamps, Romanian stamps, Soviet stamps, again Trucial States, celebrating the Mexico Olympics, Sharjah, the World Cup, Poland, Ajman, some Japanese masks there, and some British stamps. Two the same. And more Yemen, this time the royalist kingdom of Yemen. I'm really not sure anything about the history of the various separatist parts of Yemen, and again the Kathiri state, again forming part of Yemen. So they were quite exciting when they came. So some Romanian stamps. Hungary again. Poland, Hungary, Poland again. Russia, Argeman, some lovely cats there. Poland, the Polish ballet. Apollo 14, Japanese theatre, Poland again, Soviet Union, lots of Lenin there giving off his speeches, and again Trucial States. And another one, it's Malaysia, Poland, Trucial States, Yemen Arab Republic, Romania, Trucial States, East Germany. I looked at this set online, and the 70 Pfennig stamp is missing. There's 6 rather than 5 in that set. Hungary, Hajman says fantastic long 1972 set of 56 different stamps, all tenant together in one sheet, showing military uniforms of various countries through the ages. And it's absolutely awful. And I don't think these are even cancelled to order. I think this postmark has been printed on. I don't know what kind of perforation machine that they've used with it, but that is absolutely awful. Even as a child, I just can't imagine wanting to own that. But there we go. And imagine 25 pence, is quite a substantial amount of money then. And again, Munich Olympics that time. So I also found a couple of these older booklets. This one says these stamps will never be catalogued. They're Polish stamps. They're probably in a catalogue somewhere. But these, I have absolutely no idea where they come from. I tried looking them up. I think they're some kind of charity stamp for the orphans of telegraph workers, but I'm really not sure. Why they have postmarks on, again, I'm not sure. And the rest all seem to be from the South Moluccas. which is somewhere in Indonesia, and supposedly issued by a government in exile. This is quite a write-up about them on here. But why a government in exile was issuing stamps, apart from making money from gullible collectors, I'm not sure. Sensational complete mix set of 6 Croatia exile government 1952 triangular flowers. Croatia is one of the states forming Yugoslavia. Issued its own stamps during the occupation 1940 to 44. These beautiful, controversial triangular postage stamps were issued by the anti-communist Free Croatian government in exile in Argentina for publicity and propaganda purposes. Well, if you wanted to own those, they were one shilling and sixpence. And again, we've got another breakaway kingdom of Yemen. And finally, this is the last book, I promise you. And there's the owner's signature. Some Chinese stamps there. Hungary again. Hungary. And Hungary. So DJ Hanson advertised for many years in children's comics for many British children. He was their first introduction to stamp collecting. From what I've read online, he started his own business, making small packets of stamps while he was still at school, selling them at school and through his father's corner shop. He ran his business through a number of companies. There was Philatelist Services, there was DJ Hanson, there was a stamp club, and where the approval books came from, the Universal Stamp Company and Philatelist Services. So he claimed to be the world's largest, at least Britain's largest, mail order philatelist firm. But I've also heard that Thomas Cliff, who created the Excelsior stamp wallet, I think they were also in the same business and probably much bigger than his. I've seen a photograph of their offices in Rhyl, and they had a workers' bus picking people up from work and dropping them off again. As for DJ Hanson, he built a hut at the bottom of his garden, and he had 20 workers there, all sticking the stamps in the booklets. But he was by no means the only person that was selling these rather dodgy stamps to young collectors. I found an approval book by a Philatelist society, I'm not sure if it's local, to Tienen in northern Belgium. But this again has the same kind of stamps that DJ Hanson was putting out, and believe it or not, another Yemeni state there, the Mara state of South Arabia. So there were people capturing young collectors everywhere. So I can't blame Dennis Hanson for that. And I was quite excited as a youngster. I just wish that he'd been maybe a little bit more honest. Anyway, it's a different kind of video. I hope it wasn't too long and that you weren't too bored. And I hope you'll subscribe, and I'll make a new video for you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Bye bye.